Beautiful inks. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kristen and I will be swatching as many inks as possible within the next hour. I've got 23 samples plus 1 bottle of ink. And yes, all of this came from friend Nadia. Thank you so much, Nadia, for making this video possible. Let's just get started. I will be swatching on Midori paper, Yamamoto bank paper, Tomoe River paper, Cosmo Airlight paper, and Iroful paper. I'm going to be using a paintbrush, a fine nibbed Hokuro dip pen, and my Kakimori brass nib. Alright, so first one is going to be brown pink. I kind of like using this Hokuro dip nib. Quite nice. I'm probably going to take off the reservoir for this thing. See how it goes without the feed. Yeah, it still works. It only worked for just a little bit. I feel like I'm not using too much ink. And now I can do the swatches for all of these papers. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sheets. There we go. That's crazy how this KWZ Brown Pink is definitely like this berry purple color, but it's turning the water green. It's brown pink, but it looks purple to me. Look at this green water. Look at that. Next up, we've got KWZ Honey. Honey is beautiful. I really like the look of KWZ Honey. I'm starting to really appreciate these lighter honey brown colors. I would love to see that in a pen. All right, next we've got Ferris Wheel Press Steeped Umber. Yeah, it's like a cooler, more reddish brown here. I actually really do like this color. I need to figure out what pen to use with this because it looks really, really nice. And I think I didn't really get a chance to enjoy the ink color because of the pen that I used. I was always expecting this to be more of a red because it was inked up in a red pen, but I really do like this. It's like a golden reddish brown. I like it. It's looking a bit underwhelming on the Iroful paper. I kind of prefer the more saturated version of it rather than the gray color that's coming out in Iroful and the Cosmo Airlight paper. All right, so after that one, we've got Dominant Industry Ginger Chicken. I wonder about the similarities between Dominant Industry Ginger Chicken and Diamine Ancient Copper. Ooh, it feels wet. It's quite wet. All right, look at that. Okay, next up we've got Robert Oster Sushi. Quite neon, or it's a bit bright. It's really pink. I want to see this one next to Diamine Pink. Yeah, this definitely feels drier than Dominant Industry Ginger Chicken. This KWZ Brown Pink does not look pink at all, or brown. Next up, we've got Pelikan Edelstein Rose Quartz. Rose Quartz is strange. It looks like it's, I don't know, it's like a dirty pink. And like the dirt just dries to a purple. There is a residue in the liquid. So it looks like this orange brown something is in here, but then it dries. It looks like it dries without the brownish tint to it, but it looks muddy while it's wet. All right, next we've got some browns. Well, this brown, Troublemaker Inks Tablea. I think I like it. It looks like it goes on brown and then it dries a little bit green. Oh, so of course I'm gonna like this one. Oh yeah, this might be an ink bottle that I snatch up really quickly. Look at what it's doing here. Look at everywhere. I like it. That's what I'm looking for. Troublemaker Inks Tablea. Am I saying it incorrectly? I'm not sure, but whatever it is, it's doing something right on all these papers. I love it. It dries green here. I would love to put this one in a pen without a doubt. Okay, what's next? PenBBS 435 Snow Pine. Come on up. I really like Snow Pine. I didn't realize that there were so many lovely green brown inks out there that could make me happy. Such a grungy color. I like this PenBBS color. Next up, we've got Akkerman Hofvijver Grijs. That's a nice gray. I like how it coats the vial. Seems like it would be a well-behaved ink just by the way that it looks in the vial. So we'll see if that also holds true in a fountain pen. It's actually refreshing to see such a silvery gray, like a true gray, not one that's leaning blue or one that leans brown. Next up, we've got Troublemaker Inks Sage Green. Ooh. Look at the green in that corner. So nice. All right, we've got Troublemaker Inks Sea Glass next. Okay, PenBBS looks weird. It's just this huge blob. Okay. Let me bring these over so we can kind of see what's going on with sea glass. This is sea glass, so it looks like a more of a springy green here. It's more of a sage here, and look at that. It's like a much more saturated blue-green than anywhere else. The halo on the bank paper is more of a yellowish green or yellowish teal, should I say it that way. Kobe number 35 Mount Suwa Leaf Green is next. Sage green looks just as great as this Akkerman Hofvijver Grijs on Aerofil paper. Look at that sheen here. Can you see the sheen? Yeah, on Troublemaker Inks Tablea. Ooh. Ooh, so wet. All right. Wow. That's a lot of ink. Trying to take some of it back. I think I'm going to take a quick break. So yay, I got through half of these. 5, 10, 12. Yeah, I got through the first half in 1 hour. Yes. I'm going to take a break and do the second half when I come back. The first batch is done. Next is Sailor's 2020 Pen Show ink. That's pretty light. All right, so the next ink is the 2022 Pen Show ink from Sailor. This ink has a little bit more green than the camera is portraying. I really like this. Okay, so next is Diamine Aurora Borealis. Looks like it's a bit more teal than the Sailor 2022 Pen Show ink. Next is Diamine Blue Peppermint. Seems like this one is even closer to the Sailor 2022 Pen Show ink. All right, after that one is Diamine Aqua Lagoon. Yeah, this one was really nice, bright, typical turquoise colors. More blue than the 2022 Pen Show ink. Next is Diamine Havasu Turquoise. I see the shading in this one. That's kind of nice. More blue than Aqua Lagoon. Oh, I like peppermint now. Okay, I'm seeing these colors. I like how I'm able to see them relative to each other. At least peppermint on the Tomoe River paper actually looks more green. On the bank paper, it's got a little bit more blue here than on Tomoe River. So now Diamine Havasu Turquoise is the most blue of the collection. What's next? LAMY Tourmaline, which based on the packaging is probably going to look similar to Diamine Peppermint, Sailor, and the Sailor Pen Show Inks. So what? It's going to be more similar to maybe Diamine Aurora Borealis. LAMY Tourmaline is darker than I thought it would be. This is showing me that I do not need a Sailor 2022 Pen Show ink or Diamine Aurora Borealis because I've got a full bottle of Tourmaline. Thank you, Nadia. This gorgeous ink. Next up, we've got Troublemaker Inks Abalone. This feels dry. It doesn't even look or feel like there's ink on this nib, but it's here. It's like a blue-gray. Tourmaline is drying quickly on Tomoe River paper. Nice. Oh, that was a lot. Beautiful blue-gray with a hint of lavender in here. Next up, we've got Piloted Roshizuku Kujaku. Also nice blue. Teal. Another wet ink. It goes down blue, and it looks like it dries to a teal color. The thing that I really do like and enjoy about Tasia Sabi Midori. Kujaku seems to be doing the same thing here. Next is KWZ Walk Over Vistula. Yeah, there might be some sheen going on with KWZ Walk Over Vistula. All right, we got 2 more colors to go. Yay! Akkerman Lan Van Nu. It looks like a violet blue. I like this muted blue. It's a blue that's almost gray. It looks deep and soft at the same time. I like it. All right, so the last ink is Colorverse Lucky Star. Oh, it's a shimmer. Yes, I like this ink. But do I like this ink more than the others that I have similar to it? Like some of these Diamine Inkfin colors. Yes, thick and dark. That is a deep shade. And I feel like I can already see the shimmer particles before it dries. Ooh, wee, look at that. Okay. Well, I'm glad I left that one for last because that is such a deep dark color. Did I get everything? I think I got everything. Yay. Okay, so I'm going to let these dry and then I will come back to show you the differences across papers, and I'll also do swatch comparisons with these and the ones that are already in my collection. All right, so KWZ Brown Pink looks basically like a very deep desaturated purple. It's pretty consistent across papers, though I do see a little bit more of the color on the bank paper. It peeks through just a little bit more here. It's less saturated on the Cosmo Air Light paper and Aerofil paper. And there's a black sheen on Tomoe River paper. KWZ Honey is pretty consistent across papers. It looks more yellow, a bit more golden here on the cream Midori paper. I do like how it looks on the Cosmo Air Light and the Aerofil paper. Ferris Wheel Press Steeped Umber. I love the saturation here on the bank paper and on the cream Midori paper. It looks a bit underwhelming here where it's pooling quite a bit on the Tomoe River paper, but I wonder how I would feel about this ink if I were to put it in a pen that actually matched it a little bit better. Because I had it in a wine red or maroon colored fountain pen back in November and December. And so it was a little bit underwhelming to see a red pen, but something that was not so red coming out of it. It just kind of threw me for a loop. So now that I can see like the actual true color of Steeped Umber, I would love to put this in a pen that would complement the ink color a little bit better. Dominant Industry Ginger Chicken reminds me so much of Diamine Ancient Copper. I really love how it looks on all 5 of these papers. But one thing that I noticed when I used Diamine Ancient Copper is I really preferred how it looked in large swatches, but I was a bit underwhelmed with how the ink looked whenever I wrote with it. So I'll have to see. I really want to know how similar this is to Ancient Copper and if I have the same experience or the same perception of this ink as I did with Diamine Ancient Copper. Robert Oster Sushi is pretty interesting. It looks so very bright and bold here on the bank paper and the Midori paper, but it looks super soft on the other 3, Cosmo Air Light, Iroful, and Tomoe River papers. And I kind of like it. Once I write like a full page of text, would I really still be attracted to this ink color? I really do think that this is a lovely color. That super saturation right there, it kind of pushes me away a bit, but I do appreciate how it shades nicely on the Yamamoto bank paper. All right, so these are the next inks. Pelikan Edelstein Rose Quartz is a very pale, very cool toned pink. And in some cases, it looks like it's a little bit, it looks a bit dingy. I really do like how the Midori paper is warming it up. The very subtle purple, maybe it's a warm shade of purple, like a cool tone ink with a warmer halo. It just looks a little bit muddy. I don't know what to do with that one. I might put it in a pilot parallel and just have fun with that ink. Troublemaker Inks Tablea. I actually thought that this was a brown ink, and it's a brown ink for about 2 seconds. So it has like this dual chromo shading type thing going on, plus a black sheen. So let me give you a closer look at Tablea. So look at that black sheen on top of this ink color. And it looks brown right here in the middle of that sheen, but then at the very edge, at the lighter applications of this ink, it looks more of a green color. It looks like a green ink. Here on Iroful paper, it's a very muddy brownish green here. I see a bit of green here, and I think that is so cool on Midori paper. How it just very subtly goes from green plus that black sheen, and then there's a hint of brown right there in the middle of the sheen. And here on Cosmo Air Light, right? Yep, this is Cosmo Air Light paper. I really love how it looks on Cosmo Air Light paper because there's less of the black sheen and I can see more of the color underneath. PenBBS 435 Snow Pine. This is a cool tone ink here on Iroful paper. On Yamamoto bank paper, it looks like a mustardy olive brown. And then over here, it's almost too dark for me to tell like what exactly it looks like. This is Midori paper. And on the Cosmo Air Light paper, I actually really like this cool tone green here. So the colors that I prefer are on the Cosmo Air Light paper, the Iroful paper, and Tomoe River paper. Although it looks really weird here. I don't know, where the ink pooled, it just... like somebody just erased the middle of this swatch. It looks like somebody just censored the shading in the middle of this ink swatch. Akkerman Hofvijver Grijs. I think I said it at least halfway properly this time. I really love how it looks on Tomoe River paper. And, well, actually, I kind of like it on all of them, but I prefer not to see so much of the black sheen here on the Midori paper. It doesn't look too bad on the bank paper. It's not bad here either, but I really like how it looks on Tomoe River and Cosmo Air Light. It's really nice to see like a medium gray, slightly cool, but not so cool that it looks blue. I really like that shade. It does a little weird thing on these swatch cards. I don't know. It just looks odd the way that the ink pooled. So like these little artifacts are just really dark areas. It looks strange. After that ink, we've got Troublemaker Inks Sage Green, which looks almost black on some of these papers. Here on Tomoe River paper, the Sage Green, I can only tell that it's green like right here where my thumb is. It is such a dark ink. And this is one of the inks that I would love to put in maybe a Kaweco Sport. What I've noticed so far is that the Kaweco Sport is a dry writing fountain pen, and it will spread out or make the ink look a little bit more translucent as you write with it. So I would love to see this ink, like a very thin layer of this ink on the page. As long as it's not a super dry ink, I think that would be a lovely pairing, or a pairing that I would really enjoy seeing. I can see a little bit more of the green here on Irrefull paper. The green is warmer on the bank paper. It's like a green black on Midori paper. It's a very subtle, cool tone green on Cosmo Airlight paper. I would really want to see this in a dry writing fountain pen that spreads the ink thinly on the page so that I can have a better understanding of the actual color of this ink. But so far, it is intriguing. Now let's take a look at Troublemaker Inks Sea Glass. Sea Glass, Sea Glass, right here. This is one of those inks that looks slightly different on, well, at least these two papers. This is the cream Midori paper, and this one is probably, yep, this is the bank paper that pulls out and showcases the greens in every single one of these inks. If there is any green to showcase, it's going to pull it out. So here is Troublemaker Inks Sea Glass. It looks like a much more springy, vibrant green here. It still has some chromal shading properties in this ink sample, but I really do appreciate the cooler tone green here that shows a lot more pink chromal shading with the teal halo on, what's this one? Tomoe River paper, the Cosmo Air Light paper, and Irrefull paper. These are the three versions of Troublemaker Inks Sea Glass that I really do like. I have a soft spot for like these mint green colors, and this soft shade of Sea Glass is just, it's right up my alley. And I am so excited about putting this one in a fountain pen. I'm not sure what fountain pen I would use, maybe my Sailor Dragon palettes or maybe something else. But yes, I'm excited about using this one. Kobe number 35, Mount Suwa Leaf Green, is interesting. It's a softer, warmer shade of green here on the bank paper, but I really do like the dark, moody shade of Mount Suwa Leaf Green on all of the other papers. There is a lot of black sheen on this thing. So on the Cosmo Air Light paper, on Irrefull paper, and even there's a good bit of it on the Tomoe River paper as well. I like it. I used this ink last year in the Pilot E95S fountain pens, the fine and the extra fine nibs, but I would love to see this in a thicker nib so that I can really see how dark and moody this ink looks. Yeah, I'm excited about that one. I'm also excited about these Sailor Pen Show inks. Yeah, this 2020 Pen Show ink is like that shade of mint green that I really enjoy. Let me show you. I really enjoy this shade of green, and so I do prefer this, like the legibility of this ink, over an ink that was exactly this color. But I still wonder if this ink is still too light, or if I would appreciate something that's this light, this bright. I can only guess until I actually use it. I actually thought the 2020 color and the 2022 color were much closer in hue than they actually are. So this 2022 Pen Show ink looks pretty consistent across all papers. Of course, there's a little bit more warmth here on the Midori paper because it's a cream paper. All right, so moving over a little bit so that we can see Diamine Aurora Borealis, which is a slightly more teal version of the Sailor 2022 Pen Show ink. It is a bit deeper, it's got a little bit more green, and it seems to be slightly less saturated as well. It's pretty consistent across papers, although it looks much more green here on the cream Midori paper. It's got a very slight, a very faint red sheen as well. I wonder how dominant that sheen would be coming from a wet writing fountain pen. Starting with Diamine Blue Peppermint. Blue Peppermint looks really good. And I think, actually, let me just take this off for a moment. I think that Blue Peppermint, even though it's a bit bluer than the Sailor 2020 Pen Show ink, I think that this would be a much more pleasant, a much more legible ink. I wish that it was a little bit more green, but it's not bad. I like how it looks on Irrefull paper, and I actually like how it looks on most of these papers, but I love that it's a bit more green here on Irrefull paper. It walks that fine line between green and blue. So it's more on the, I feel like it's more on the green side, but I would love to put this in a pen to really get a feel for it. Diamine Aqua Lagoon is a nice blue. I actually thought that it was a turquoise. I thought it was a straight turquoise until I swatched the next ink, Diamine Havasu Turquoise. And they are very, very similar in color, these two inks. But there's a little bit more green to the Aqua Lagoon than there is in the Diamine Havasu Turquoise. There is a slight red sheen to Diamine Havasu Turquoise, but I'm not too sure that I would actually see this in writing. It's probably just in heavier swatches of ink. Give you a closer look of Havasu Turquoise here. You might be able to tell that there's quite a bit of shading here. I like the dimension that I see in that ink. And I also like it here in LAMY Tourmaline. Tourmaline seems to be one of those inks that I just cannot escape. I've got a couple inks that are pretty similar to this ink color. I think it's very similar to Diplomat Deep Green. I think it's similar to Pelikan 4001 Dark Green, and I probably have another one that is very similar to this. I'm not too sure. But now I have another green, blue, teal ink color to add to my bottled collection. So it is very gorgeous, very nice. I love the shading here. Now here on Yamamoto bank paper, I can see that there's definitely a difference between Sailor 2022 Pen Show ink and LAMY Tourmaline. LAMY Tourmaline seems to be slightly greener than the 2022 Pen Show ink. They look very similar over here on Tomoe River paper. They look very similar here. This is Cosmo Air Light paper. They could be mistaken for the other. They could also be mistaken for the other on Iroful paper. These two inks look so very similar to each other on all of these papers except the Yamamoto bank paper, when I can see just a tad bit more green here. Troublemaker Inks Abalone. It's so cool. It looks like a tealish blue here. It looks purple over here on Tomoe River paper. And over here, it's like this blue gray color. Down here, it's also a blue gray with a good amount of chromal shading. There's chromal shading on all of these, actually. It looks like a blue gray color on these three papers, Cosmo Airlight, Midori, and Iroful. There's a bit more purple here on Tomoe River paper, and it just looks teal, like a teal gray here on the bank paper. I love this blue gray version with the purple chromal shading in the heavier areas. Okay, so now we're looking at the last row of inks. Pilot Shizuku Kujaku looks very similar to LAMY Tourmaline. I like it, but I prefer not this green version of Kujaku. I prefer this bluer version right here, which actually reminds me of the shade of Tasya Sabi Midori. I do prefer Tasya Sabi Midori over this ink color, but I still am very fond of this shade of blue. Kujaku looks bluer than LAMY Tourmaline on Tomoe River paper. It is so very similar on the bank paper, but the writing looks like it's slightly more blue and less saturated than LAMY Tourmaline on the bank paper. Definitely bluer than LAMY Tourmaline on Iroful paper. It looks basically the same as LAMY Tourmaline on Midori paper, and it's bluer than LAMY Tourmaline on Cosmo Airlight paper. The sheen on KWZ Walkover Vistula just continues to rub off on my fingers from this Cosmo Airlight paper. It is slightly sticky on Iroful. I don't feel any stickiness on Tomoe River paper. There is no residue on the bank paper. On Midori paper, there is a heavy amount of sheen on KWZ Walkover Vistula, but there is no actual residue or stickiness on this paper. There's a decent amount of stickiness on this Iroful paper, but it does not rub off on my fingers. What does rub off on my fingers is the sheen on Cosmo Air Light paper. This keeps happening every time I touch this paper, but it's dry. The ink is dry, but there's just too much that had pulled up in certain areas. It's sticky now. So I'm not too fond of the ink on Cosmo Air Light paper. I saw the most sheen on Iroful paper, Cosmo Air Light paper, and Midori paper. On Yamamoto bank paper and Tomoe River paper, it seems that these two papers handle this ink much more gracefully. I'm not crazy about it so far. It's a nice shade of blue, but there are other inks, other colors that I would prefer to use over this one. Colorverse Lucky Star looks so cool. It is like this violet blue color with Is that a golden sheen? I can't tell if this is a golden sheen or if the gold shimmer is changing the color of this sheen. Okay, so it looks like Colorverse Lucky Star is a violet blue ink color that has a coppery sheen and a gold shimmer. Take a look at that. The ink color is pretty consistent across papers. It looks like it's a bit more apparent that this is a blue ink on airfoil paper. I can see that blue standing out a lot better on that paper than I can on Tomoe River, for example. The same thing here. It's a bit darker on these two papers, Midori and Cosmo Air Light paper. Oof. After seeing all of these ink colors and swatching everything, let me see which ones I actually enjoyed. This was a very nice, diverse selection of inks, although quite a few of these look very similar to each other. I enjoy the opportunities that I have to try out inks that I wouldn't necessarily pick for myself, which is why I have the Inkflight subscription box, because I love exploring and trying new things and really just challenging my preferences and boundaries to see if there is something that I haven't tried that I actually might enjoy. So for example, like KWZ Honey is a gorgeous color. That's not an ink that I would have sought out. And the same thing with Ferris Wheel Press Steeped Umber, which I would love to see. Like, I like that shade. This Akkerman ink, Hofvijver Grijs, and the other one, where is it? Lan Van Nieuw. Did I even talk about Lan Van Nieuw? I don't know if I talked about Lan Van Nieuw, but this is, okay, Lan Van Nieuw is a gorgeous color as well. I like the soft blue that I see here. It's actually shocking to me that this soft blue has a sheen. I'm not used to seeing soft colors that have sheen. But yeah, I really like how it looks on airfoil paper, big surprise. But I also like how it looks on Tomoe River because that's really nice. And the bank paper makes it even softer here in the writing. I like that. The gray, this soft blue, I like of course, the Troublemaker inks because chroma shading makes me happy. KWZ Honey, Steeped Umber, PenBBS Snow Pine is good as well. Tablea, absolutely, yes. Okay, so let me take a look at some of these inks. See, Brown Pink looks purple. It's like a black purple, a purple black. KWZ Honey, okay, so we'll put that on the left side. I like that one, so I'll put it on the right. Steeped Umber is just, oh, it's like this warm goodness. I don't want to like Ferris Wheel Press inks, but I really like this one, so I'm excited to try that one. Ginger Chicken, I am undecided, so I'll put that one in the middle, I guess. These ones, I could probably take it or leave it. This one, I'm somewhere in the middle, and I'm open to being convinced one way or the other. These are the ones that I really do enjoy. I really like. This one, Tablea, probably. Snow Pine. Let me take a look at this one again because look at this. Snow Pine is like that deer brown shade, the Incubar deer brown color. That's what this reminds me of. And it's like this yellowy olive color, but over here it's like a cooler tone, a cooler shade of green. So I'm not sure because look at that. Okay, so this looks more like that shade right there on the Yamamoto bank paper. They're much more similar. But here, down here, I guess this is the color that I have to rely on. And if it is this color instead of that color, I think I'd put it in the yes pile. Okay, so these are inks that I really do like. This Hofvijver Grijs, yes. Sage Green, I'm not sure. Sea Glass, yes. I'm not sure. Maybe. This Pen Show ink, I could leave it. That's fine. And the same thing with Aurora Borealis. Like, these are colors that are still really nice. They're still really nice, but for the reason why I will put these over here on the other pile is because I have inks, or I've experienced inks that are so very similar to this, and they don't really stand out to me. So I'll put them over there. Diamine Blue Peppermint. I'm going to put this in the yes pile. Aqua Lagoon, Havasu Turquoise. LAMY Tourmaline is, I think, is in the middle, but dude, I have so many of these inks. I would put it here, but just because of the fact that I have experienced this color so many times, it has to go over there. Abalone, awesome. Kujaku, it's okay, but I'm gonna put it over there. Walkover Vistula, Lan Van Nieuw, sure. This is a strong gold shimmer. Oh, that's so cool. That's so very cool. I don't know if I've ever experienced this shade of gold. It's like this warm yellow. I'm gonna have to put it over here just because it intrigues me so much. Okay, so these are the ones that are just okay. I'll probably end up trying them at some point, maybe in a 30 inks 30 days, which I would love to do, because there's no way that I can try out all of these ink samples and buy additional ink samples and not do some marathon or sprint ink testing like 30 inks 30 days. So those are the ones that are like, oh, they're fine. These are pretty good ink colors that I would love to experience in a fountain pen of my choosing to see what I think about them, because I really like the moodiness of this green on some papers. I like the shade. Well, I want to see what this looks like when I'm writing with that ink color, because this is super dark, but this color right here intrigues me. So that's what I want to see in a fountain pen. And this, I'm not sure, because it reminds me so much of Diamine Ancient Copper, and Diamine Ancient Copper would probably go down here. So I'm not sure, pending additional testing. These are like pretty cool ink colors. Yeah, I would love to explore these a little bit more to see what I think about them. I think each one of these is like really intriguing in their own way. I'm actually shocked that I have these bright colors here, but I really do like them. These seem to be so similar in their desaturated qualities, but that is a chroma shading ink. This is also a chroma shading ink. This black sheen is throwing me off a bit. I'm still so curious about it. All right, so that's that. Let me see if I have anything in my collection that is similar to any of these ink colors. I will be right back. Look at that. Ferris Wheel Press Oyster Hour next to KWZ Honey. Robert Oster, Kansas City. Diamine Golden Brown, but it's not as dark as KWZ Honey. Colorverse number 51, How Mask. Oh, okay. Look at that. Diamine Cinnabon is so very similar to KWZ Honey. Slightly more saturated than KWZ Honey. There's a little bit more of this golden color in Cinnabon that I really want to explore, and I will this year. But if I am not satisfied by Diamine Cinnabon, I see that KWZ Honey is a worthy replacement. I've got Akkerman SBRE Brown, which I would love to see that one next to Dominant Industry Ginger Chicken, and Ferris Wheel Press Steeped Umber. Inkabara Alice Red next to Dominant Industry Ginger Chicken. Yep, here is Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Brown next to Ginger Chicken, which is a bit more red than Brilliant Brown. Ferris Wheel Press Steeped Umber next to Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Brown. Interesting. I like Brilliant Brown. It's more saturated and it is slightly more red than Steeped Umber. Here it is, Diamine Ancient Copper. It's more saturated, so it actually looks more red than Dominant Industry Ginger Chicken. And here it is next to Ferris Wheel Press Steeped Umber. Here is Monteverde Kindness Pink next to Pelikan Edelstein Rose Quartz. It actually looks slightly purple next to this one. Colorverse Alpha Boo, Robert Oster Rose Gold Antiqua, Wearing Gold Flowers on the Way, Venta Inks Lacambini. Lacambini is actually a softer pink. It also has a golden or rose gold shimmer. Robert Oster Cherry Blossom next to Rose Quartz. They're pretty similar. I think I actually prefer Cherry Blossom. Oh, look at that. Herbe Bouquet d'Antan. I remember trying Bouquet d'Antan. It was a very light, very dry ink. And I wonder how Pelikan Edelstein Rose Quartz is going to behave in a fountain pen. I see that they are so very similar to each other. And I like the warmth that I see in Bouquet d'Antan, which I actually thought was a pretty pale, pretty cool tone pink, but by comparison, this is definitely cooler than Bouquet d'Antan. KWZ Brown Pink looks even more purple than Grape Ice Pop from Ferris Wheel Press. This is Brown Pink next to Poussière de Lune. Diatramenous Aubergine next to KWZ Brown Pink. Here is Diamine Cozy Up next to Robert Oster Sushi. Sushi seems to be slightly more pink than Cozy Up. Oh, Wistful Watermelon next to Sushi. Wistful Watermelon seems to be slightly softer in color. Here's Florentine Red, Pink Gazelle by Octopus Fluids, Van Diemen's Tassie Salmon. There it is. Okay, so Diamine Pink actually looks orange, almost orange, next to Robert Oster's Sushi. Why does Sushi look more pink than pink? Here is Sailor Manyo Shirakashi next to PenBBS Snow Pine. And this is just on coloring paper. I know that Snow Pine looks completely different on Tomoe River paper, but I'm just doing comparisons with the coloring paper for now. Here is Inkabar 610 Deer Brown next to PenBBS 435 Snow Pine. There's more of a black sheen with Snow Pine than there is with Deer Brown. So I do appreciate that I can see more of the color of Deer Brown, which actually looks a little bit more golden yellow than Snow Pine. Troublemaker Inks, Tuslabua, Sailor Shikiori Minori, and Robert Oster Detox. Here we go, one more just for fun. Sailor Shikiori Tokiwa Matsu. Troublemaker Inks Tablea next to Sailor Shikiori Tokiwa Matsu. Here is Robert Oster Detox next to Tablea. Tablea is definitely darker than Detox. There's this black sheen that I see that is not present, or at least it is very light on Detox. Here's Diamine Safari next to Tablea. Here is Diamine Salamander next to Troublemaker Inks Tablea. So they are both so very dark. And these are the types of inks that I would love to see in dryer writing fountain pens that spread the ink thinly across the page. Sage green, it seems to be, I can't even tell. These are like the super duper dark ink colors that I just need a little bit more help trying to decipher the actual color of these inks. So let me go back to do some comparisons with these again. Robert Oster Detox next to Troublemaker Inks Sage Green. Tokiwa Matsu next to Sage Green. And it is very similar to this little corner right in here. Diamine 150th Anniversary Safari. This is Private Reserve Avocado next to Kobe No. 35 Mount Suwa Leaf Green. Colorverse Crab Nebula. This is less saturated. Inkabar Granite Green next to Kobe No. 35 Mount Suwa Leaf Green. I believe that Colorverse Crab Nebula might be the closest to Kobe No. 35 Mount Suwa Leaf Green. They're both very, very dark and difficult to see, but if you look at the text, this seems to be a bit cooler, slightly less saturated, I think, than Colorverse Crab Nebula. And there's also like a reddish sheen on Colorverse Crab Nebula. And the sheen here on Mount Suwa Leaf Green seems to be black, I think. Let's take a look at Octopus Fluids Write and Draw next to Troublemaker Inks Sea Glass. Sea Glass is definitely a cooler tone green. It's got a bit teal going on here. Diatramenis Jane Austen is a straightforward green color that actually looks to be both bluer and greener. So Van Diemen's European Honeybee Eater Wing is a cooler shade of green than Sea Glass. So there's a bit more blue here. Since there are so many different colors in Troublemaker Inks Sea Glass, it's slightly difficult to place it here. Oh, look at that. Colorverse Alpha Pisces is very similar. It's just that it's missing the chromal shading, like this pinkish chromal shading here that you see in Troublemaker Inks Sea Glass. But they're so very similar. Monarca Manglar. I can compare these greens to the 2020 Pen Show ink so that you can see exactly how not green the Pen Show ink really is. This is the Sailor 2020 Pen Show ink next to Van Diemen's Elegant Peacock Train. Here is Pannonia Amazold, Almasold, Diamine Marion Bright, Robert Oster Green Lady Shimmy. Okay, so now look at Venta Ink's Carnival, less saturated than the Sailor 2020 Pen Show ink. I like both of them, but I like how this one pops a little bit better. Pannonia Patina or Patina, definitely softer. Something that I would only put, I guess, in a Pilot Parallel or a super juicy, super huge nib. Pilot Iroshizuku Shin Ryoku. Look at that. Stipula Bright Green next to the Pen Show ink. Bright green seems like it is a much more legible version. But I wish it was a little bit more minty. Califolio Theodora is definitely green next to this Pen Show ink. Now let's take a look at Diplomat Deep Green next to Blue Peppermint from Diamine. Van Diemen's Mandarin Duck Nape. Oh, nice. Pelikan Edelstein Jade next to Diamine Blue Peppermint. Blue Peppermint seems a bit bluer than this Jade ink. Van Diemen's Parrotfish has a This is a purple shimmer. Yeah. But the base color is very similar to Diamine Blue Peppermint. Robert Oster Marathon Blue. I actually have a bottle of this and I really enjoyed this ink color. But seeing that Blue Peppermint is very similar, it's just slightly more green, even though it's not showing up more green on the screen. I really like this color. I think it's pretty cool. Yes, the 2022 Pen Show ink next to Colorverse Alpha Virgo. Basically the same color, so very similar. And the same thing with Octopus Fluids Caribic. Colorverse number 44, Dokudo, is slightly, ever so slightly bluer than the 2022 Pen Show ink. Diamine Bliss is blue. Let's bring all three of these here since they are so very similar to each other. Aurora Borealis is a little bit greener. I think Kujaku might be the bluest of them all. Yeah. So from greenish to bluish here. It's greener than those. They're greener than those. I think this might be the missing link with all of these ink colors. This might be the missing link. So looking at all of these blue colors with Diplomat Deep Green, definitely green against those blues. Same thing with Diamine Velvet Emerald. They're all blue. So I got the LAMY Tourmaline, Aurora Borealis, Diamine Aurora Borealis, and Palette of Shizuku Kuchaku. It is very similar to, it's actually very similar to all three of these, but it's definitely still greener. Same thing with Pelikan Edelstein Jade. River of Fire is more green. All of these are more green. Sailor Shikiori Shito Shito. It's less saturated, whatever this shade is. It looks to be like a greenish color, but because of the level of desaturation, it's difficult for me to compare this ink color to these three. Laban Poseidon Green, next to these three blue colors, is similar. It is very similar, but it's much lighter. Dominant Industry Lake, Colorverse Alpha Virgo, Octopus Fluids Caribic, and Colorverse Dokudo. Here is Diamine Aqua Lagoon. Here's Robert Oster Ocean, Private Reserve Daphne Blue. Let's bring both of these up here. Havasu Turquoise, Diamine Havasu Turquoise, and Diamine Aqua Lagoon. We've got Monteverde Caribbean Blue, Pilot of Roshizuku Amairo, Stipula Light Blue, Platinum Mix Free Aqua Blue, Noodler's Navajo Turquoise, very similar to Havasu Turquoise, Aurora Turquoise, so very similar, almost the same color. Diamine Havasu Turquoise seems to be just a bit darker, especially in the writing. Andorilium Blue Ringed Octopus Blue, Noodler's Navy. So we've got this KWZ Walkover Vistula and Colorverse Lucky Star. Look at that, and another shimmery ink. So this gold shimmer, well actually this looks more like a copper shimmer, especially next to Colorverse Lucky Star. Look at that. Van Diemen's Blue Ringed Octopus. Super sheen right there. And it seems that KWZ Walkover Vistula does not have as strong a sheen as Van Diemen's Blue Ringed Octopus. They're pretty similar blues. Diamine Polar Glow, Diamine Arctic Blast, Leonardo Blue, Organic Studio Nitrogen, Tassia Ruri, Krishna Sailor's Blue, Colorverse Stars and Stripes, Colorverse Alpha Aquarius, Monarca Cenote. Yes, very similar. The shimmer is different. Diamine Upon a Star, Diamine Solar Storm next to Colorverse Lucky Star. So this golden sheen in Lucky Star seems to be a warmer shimmer than the shimmer in Diamine Solar Storm. All right, so now we're doing these muted colors. Here is Sailor Shikiori Saza, which is very similar to actually both of these ink colors. It is lighter like Troublemaker Abalone, but the actual shade of blue is more similar to Akkerman Lanvanu. Here is Incubar Giant Blue, which is more saturated and a bit deeper than Akkerman Lanvanu. Here's Parker Quink Blue Black, and Diamine Indigo, Sailor Soboku. So now let's take a look at Hofvijver Grijs next to Tassia Ainesu, Sailor Ink Studio 223, Robert Oster Chicago, Sailor Yomiku Kangyo next to Troublemaker Inks Abalone, Kyoko, Lavender Frost next to Hofvijver Grijs, Colorverse Iris Nebula, Sailor Shikiori Shimoyo, Fuyu Shogun, Diamine Ghost, Diamine Moon Dust, Montblanc Cool Gray, Diamine Sparkling Shadows, Dominant Industry Downpour. This explains why I like it so much. It is so very similar to my favorite gray. Stipula Dark Gray. Noodler's Lexington Gray. This was an ink that did weird things on this coloring card too. Graphon Faber-Castell Stone Gray. Palador Suzuku Kirisame Common Lone Black. Look at this. This is gorgeous. These colors are so beautiful, and I'm so glad that I have a friend who loves to share the joy of swatching inks. Again, thank you, Nadia, for sharing some of your ink collection with me. I really enjoy being surprised with some of these inks that I never would have thought to look for on my own, but they are just so very nice. I really like these colors. Now, there are some others that absolutely intrigue me, yes. And I think I've moved some of these off of my yes list, but onto the, maybe, sometime I'd love to try it and really get a better feel of that ink. But these are the ones that really stand out among the crowd of inks. So we've got Troublemaker Inks Sea Glass, Troublemaker Inks Abalone, Diamine Blue Peppermint, Sailor 2020 Pen Show Ink, KWZ Honey, Akkerman Lan Van Yu, Akkerman Hofvijver Grijs. I hope I said that properly. Please forgive me if I did not. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the swatching session. I certainly did. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And also let me know what your favorite one was from this selection of inks. And yes, I will see you all in the next video. Have a great day. Bye-bye. I really do like how the Midori paper is warming it up here. I'll be back.